In a galaxy ruled by vast armadas and overwhelming firepower, Earth's response to an invasion seemed absurd. One lone ship against 3,000 vessels. But as the alien council watched with amusement, they were about to witness a game-changing revelation. Humanity had turned the very tools of everyday life into the deadliest weapons, proving that sometimes the smallest force can bring the greatest change. What they discovered was more than just a military strategy. It was a new philosophy of warfare that would challenge the entire galaxy's understanding of power. The Galactic Council was in an uproar of laughter when Earth's response to the Vurian invasion fleet arrived. A single, lone human ship against an armada of 3,000 vessels. The size disparity was overwhelming, and the council members were quick to mock humanity's apparent absurdity. How could a single vessel, one far smaller and seemingly unarmed, possibly stand against an entire fleet designed for planetary conquest? It seemed as though the humans had completely lost their grip on reality. The idea that a species with such limited spacefaring capabilities could take on a highly advanced galactic empire was laughable to many. The vast, imposing ships of the Vurian Empire, which boasted immense firepower and sophisticated weaponry, were seen as unbeatable by any force smaller than a massive armada. However, not all in the chamber shared this view. High Commander Xeric, leader of the Vurian fleet and a seasoned strategist, leaned forward in his crystalline seat. His 6 eyes narrowed as he studied the image of the human ship. Though his fellow council members continued their derisive laughter, he remained suspiciously quiet. Xeric knew that humanity had a history of surprising its enemies. From the accounts he had studied of Earth's past, it was clear that humans were no strangers to overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. Their history was filled with examples of underdog victories, technological leaps, and military innovations that were unexpected and sometimes revolutionary. Xeric's mind began to race, trying to understand the reason behind this seemingly reckless act. He had seen humans turn apparent weakness into devastating strength, whether in war or technological development. They had a knack for using unconventional methods and turning simple concepts into potent weapons. The idea that a single, seemingly harmless ship could be a threat was unsettling. He knew better than to dismiss it outright. Humans were not a species to take lightly, and there had to be a deeper plan behind this. It was in this moment that Xeric gave the command to zoom in on the human vessel, fully intending to uncover what the humans had in store before making any assumptions. His instincts were telling him that something was not right, and his suspicion would soon prove to be well-founded. As High Commander Xeric scrutinized the human ship, he quickly realized that it was unlike anything in the Vurian fleet database. While its massive size was impressive, it still seemed laughably inadequate against a fleet of 3,000 warships. However, as the holographic image was magnified, something about its design caught Xeric's attention. The ship lacked any visible weapons, which was highly unusual for a military vessel, especially one that was about to face off against a fleet of this size and power. Instead of sleek weapon arrays or heavy armor plating, the human ship's hull appeared to be covered in what seemed to be storage containers. At first glance, it seemed like an ill-conceived transport ship, perhaps designed to carry cargo across space. The lack of obvious offensive capabilities, combined with the ship's unusually bulky exterior, made it appear even more out of place in the context of warfare. Xeric's mind raced, trying to piece together the significance of this design. The Varians, like many other advanced species, had come to expect a certain level of sophistication in military technology, where weaponry, shields, and advanced propulsion systems were the focal points of any combat-ready vessel. The human ship, by contrast, seemed rudimentary at best. It did not fit the typical pattern of a warship designed for large-scale space combat. The Vurian Empire prided itself on creating ships that exuded power and fear, with towering structures and weaponry capable of devastating entire fleets. The humans, on the other hand, had built something that looked far more like an industrial transport vessel, not a weapon of war. The appearance of this ship left Xeric with a sense of unease. He had spent years studying the tactics and strategies of other civilizations, and one thing he had learned was that humans were notorious for their cunning. While they may have seemed technologically inferior in many respects, they had a remarkable ability to make the most out of seemingly simple tools, turning them into powerful instruments of warfare. Xeric had heard of Earth's military history, where what appeared to be a disadvantage often turned out to be an advantage in disguise. Could this ship, with its unassuming appearance, be hiding something far more dangerous than it first appeared? He knew that dismissing it could be a grave mistake. As the ship moved steadily toward the Vurian fleet, Xeric ordered that the magnification be increased to better analyze what, if anything, might be hidden beneath its seemingly innocuous design. The tension in the chamber grew as the council members fell silent, the earlier laughter dying down as they too realized that the situation might not be as trivial as they had first assumed. The moment the human ship began its approach, the Vurian Council, filled with arrogance, believed it to be a futile effort. The human vessel, despite its size, seemed no match for the 3,000-strong invasion fleet. The Varians, with their vast array of ships and advanced weaponry, had expected little more than a brief skirmish. The fleet's commanders did not even bother to raise their shields, confident that their superior numbers and firepower would render any potential threat insignificant. After all, the human ship was alone, a single vessel against a vast armada. It was, in their minds, a foregone conclusion that this would be a one-sided battle. But then, something completely unexpected happened. The human ship's hull, which had appeared so benign and unthreatening, began to shed its seemingly inconspicuous cargo. What were once simple storage containers detached from the ship, floating free in space. As the Varians looked on, bewildered, they began to notice something they hadn't anticipated. These containers were not just cargo holds, but rather miniature ships in disguise. The swarm of tiny vessels, each barely larger than a shuttle, began to move in perfect formation, deploying from the human ship like a coordinated swarm of insects. Each of these small ships was more than just an innocent delivery drone. They carried energy signatures that immediately alerted the fleet's sensors. These seemingly harmless containers were, in fact, modified with advanced technology, including basic AI systems and specific dampening tools designed to interfere with the enemy fleet's operations. The Vurian fleet's commanders, who had assumed the containers were merely useless cargo, were now faced with the shocking reality that they had underestimated the human threat. These drones were not designed for peaceful delivery. They were an ingenious weapon capable of taking down the most advanced warships in the galaxy. The swarm was deployed with remarkable precision, each drone programmed with a specific task. Some of the drones attached themselves to the engines of the Vurian ships. Others targeted vital systems like weapon arrays, communications, and shields. Despite the size and firepower of the Vurian vessels, they were ill-equipped to deal with an attack from such small, nimble ships. The drones, working with terrifying efficiency, were able to disable key systems without causing explosions or damage to the ships themselves. It was a calculated and strategic approach, a stark contrast to the typical massive, destructive warfare the Varians were used to. Instead of engaging in full-scale destruction, the drones neutralized the fleet's abilities, leaving the Vurian ships floating helplessly in space. The Varians, whose massive warships had been designed for large-scale combat, found themselves powerless against the tiny, precise attackers. The effectiveness of this swarm demonstrated not only the intelligence behind the human strategy, but also their ability to use basic technologies in ways that no one, least of all the Varians, had considered. The swarm of drones continued to dismantle the Vurian fleet with chilling precision, highlighting the humanity's approach to warfare, efficiency, automation, and a mastery of technological innovation. By the time the Vurian commanders could react, it was already too late. They were no longer in control, their once mighty fleet rendered ineffective by an unexpected weapon, a swarm of autonomous delivery drones. It was a complete shift in the rules of engagement, one that the Varians had not seen coming and were woefully unprepared for. The swarm had completely shifted the balance of power in space combat, and the Varians were left to watch in stunned silence as the human strategy unfolded with devastating success. As the swarm of drones completed its mission, and the Vurian fleet was effectively neutralized, the human vessel that had released the swarm remained calm and composed. This was not a brutal victory. Instead, it was a demonstration of controlled power, a calculated warning that carried far more weight than any violent conquest could. The human ship, now seemingly empty of its swarm, broadcasted a message across all frequencies, one that reached every corner of the galactic space, including the council chamber, where the Vurian High Commander Xeric and his fellow members watched in stunned silence. The message came from Captain Sarah Chun, leader of the human vessel, who had taken responsibility for delivering not a declaration of war, but a statement that reshaped the very nature of galactic conflict. In her calm voice, Captain Chin revealed the true nature of the attack, explaining that the human ships had used modified terrestrial delivery drone technology, commonly used by humans for logistics and everyday tasks, and equipped them with basic AI and system dampening tools. What the Varians initially thought were harmless cargo containers had been converted into highly effective combat tools, with each tiny drone carrying a specific purpose. Despite this, Captain Chen made it clear that they could have weaponized the drones with more deadly force, but they had deliberately chosen not to. This decision, paired with the fact that the drones had not killed anyone, indicated that the humans were not interested in destruction for its own sake. Rather, they were sending a powerful message. Humanity could win battles without resorting to death or devastation. They could neutralize the most powerful fleets in the galaxy using technology that most other civilizations would dismiss as trivial. This message was more than just a declaration of military superiority. It was a moral and philosophical statement. Captain Chen's words highlighted a fundamental difference in the approach to conflict. The humans were showing the galaxy that they did not measure victory in terms of fleet sizes or body counts. Instead, they focused on efficiency, precision, and, most importantly, the application of automation and smart technologies. They were revealing the true nature of their power, which lay not in brute force, but in intellectual innovation and the ability to think beyond conventional warfare. The Vurian commanders, who had spent countless years perfecting large-scale warfare strategies, now found themselves questioning everything they had ever known about combat. As the message continued, Captain Chun made the humans' intentions crystal clear. They were offering a choice: withdraw from Earth space, sign a non-aggression pact, and avoid any further conflict. The drones had demonstrated their ability to neutralize an entire fleet with minimal resources, without causing a single casualty, and with far less energy than it would take to supply one of the Vurian capital ships for a month. However, the message also came with a stark warning. Should the Varians decline the human terms, they were reminded that Earth maintained a fleet of over 50 million delivery drones, with the demonstration having used less than 1% of this capacity. The message was simple. Earth had the resources to repeat this operation on an even grander scale, and the Varians would be powerless to stop it. The implications of Captain Chen's message sank in slowly across the council chamber. The humans had shown that they didn't need a massive military presence or overwhelming firepower to win. They simply needed to outthink their opponents. The message also highlighted the efficiency of the human strategy. By using an everyday technology like delivery drones, which were typically used for peaceful purposes, they had turned the tide of a galactic invasion. This was not just a military victory. It was an ideological shift in how warfare could be approached. The Varians, who had once believed that larger fleets and greater numbers were the ultimate indicators of strength, now had to grapple with the realization that humanity had outsmarted them by thinking outside the box. The human approach to warfare was not just about using technology. It was about transforming the mundane into something extraordinary. Captain Sarah Chen's message was not only a tactical explanation, but a bold reflection on the philosophy of efficiency that guided human thinking. The swarm of delivery drones that had taken down the Vurian fleet was not just a demonstration of cleverness, but a strategic shift that had far-reaching implications for how conflicts could be waged in the future. The message emphasized that humanity's strength lay not in the vastness of their military or the size of their fleets, but in their ability to use resources with incredible efficiency. Unlike the traditional approach of building massive ships and costly weaponry, which required enormous resources to construct, maintain, and operate, the humans had repurposed an already existing technology, delivery drones. These drones, which were commonplace on Earth and used for civilian purposes like delivering packages or goods, had been re-engineered with AI to carry out specific military tasks. This repurposing of civilian technology not only demonstrated the adaptability of human innovation, but also highlighted their ability to apply intelligence and resourcefulness to solve problems in ways that others had never considered. The true genius of humanity's strategy was its minimalist nature. By using drones that were small, cost-efficient, and relatively easy to produce, Earth had reduced the logistical burden of warfare. The Vurian Empire, with its vast and expensive armadas, had been defeated by something that was, at first glance, insignificant. This shift in military thinking stood in stark contrast to the Varians' conventional approach, where resources were poured into building enormous warships and fleets. Captain Chen's statement that the drones had used less than 1% of our capacity was a powerful reminder of how little energy had been expended in disabling the entire Vurian fleet. In comparison, the cost of deploying a large fleet, even a small one, was astronomical, requiring vast amounts of resources, fuel, and personnel. The humans had outperformed the Varians not just in tactics, but in the ability to execute their goals with minimal investment. Furthermore, the human strategy of deploying these drones was not simply about reducing cost, but also about maximizing efficiency in how combat objectives were achieved. Each drone was equipped with a specific task in mind, whether it was disabling engines, taking out communication arrays, or neutralizing weapon systems. The drones acted with a level of precision and coordination that was difficult to replicate, even by the most sophisticated war machines in the galaxy. They operated with perfect AI-driven efficiency, targeting only the most crucial systems, leaving entire ships incapacitated without causing unnecessary damage. There were no explosions, no collateral damage, no loss of life, just the destruction of the fleet's functionality. This efficient approach had wide-reaching consequences. The Vurian Empire, which had long prided itself on its superiority in terms of fleet size and military technology, was now forced to confront the reality that their traditional methods of warfare were outdated. The humans had proved that smaller, more focused actions could yield far greater results than massive, bloated war machines. This also raised important questions about resource allocation and sustainability in warfare. How many resources, both in terms of material and manpower, were wasted in the construction and maintenance of large fleets when simpler, more efficient solutions could accomplish the same goals? The humans had made this argument clear without a single shot being fired. It was no longer about the biggest fleet, but about the smartest strategy, and Earth had proven that intelligence, adaptability, and efficiency were far more powerful than sheer size. In the end, humanity had not only defeated an invading fleet, they had fundamentally changed the nature of how war could be waged. They had revolutionized the concept of space combat, showing that innovation could come from the most unexpected places and that the future of warfare might no longer be about ever-growing armadas, but rather about the strategic use of existing resources in new and smarter ways. This message would resonate across the galaxy for years to come, as other species began to reconsider their own approaches to conflict and the true cost of maintaining large-scale military power. One of the most striking aspects of the human response to the invasion was their decision not to destroy the Vurian fleet, despite having the power to do so. While the humans demonstrated their ability to disable and incapacitate an entire fleet of advanced warships, they intentionally chose to avoid using lethal force. This decision was not just a tactical move. It was a philosophical statement about how humans viewed the concept of war and the value they placed on life, even in the context of intergalactic conflict. The idea of warfare without destruction was foreign to the Vurian Empire and many other species in the galaxy, who had long adhered to the belief that victory in battle was defined by the annihilation of the enemy. For most advanced civilizations, war was seen as a zero-sum game, where the objective was to overpower the opponent by any means necessary. This often meant large-scale devastation, destroying ships, annihilating fleets, and most tragically, taking countless lives. This was the way of the galaxy's more established powers. However, humanity's approach revealed a different perspective, one where the focus was not on destroying the enemy, but on neutralizing their ability to fight. Captain Chen's message was clear. While they could have armed their delivery drones with lethal weapons, they chose not to. This decision underscored a core aspect of humanity's philosophy. The goal was to neutralize threats and end conflicts with as little harm as possible. The message communicated a powerful point. True victory in war could come from proving one's superiority in strategy and efficiency, without the need for death and destruction. By taking out the Vurian fleet's functionality, disabling critical systems, disabling weapons and communication, they rendered the Vurian ships useless, but they didn't cause any permanent damage. The enemy crews remained unharmed, trapped within their ships, their lives spared. There was no bloodshed, no destruction of entire cities or planets, just a strategic demonstration of human ingenuity. This philosophy, which prioritized sparing life and using minimal force to achieve maximum impact, also highlighted humanity's ability to think beyond the immediate needs of battle and consider the long-term implications of warfare. In contrast to civilizations that viewed victory as a measure of casualties inflicted or ships destroyed, humans recognized that preserving life and resources had greater value. By disabling the fleet and leaving the ships intact, Earth left open the possibility for the Vurian Empire to retreat, reconsider, and sign a peace treaty, rather than leaving a trail of death and destruction. It was a stark contrast to the traditional view of war as a game of attrition, where victory was achieved through sheer annihilation. The humans, on the other hand, had demonstrated that they could achieve their objective, defeating an invader, without any of the typical bloodshed associated with war. This strategy also carried an implicit message to the galaxy. Humanity was not interested in conquering or subjugating other species. They had no desire to engage in wars that would destroy entire civilizations. Their goal was to preserve peace and secure their future without resorting to the violence that had so often plagued other races. In choosing not to destroy, humanity also communicated a sense of moral superiority. They had the power to obliterate their enemies, but they chose a different path, one that focused on ensuring the safety of their people without losing sight of the value of life. This moral stance, while innovative in the context of space warfare, was rooted in long-standing human values, values that sought to avoid unnecessary conflict, minimize harm, and ensure that peace could be achieved without total destruction. Furthermore, this philosophy of warfare without destruction had a strategic benefit. By disabling the Vurian fleet without destroying it, humanity had preserved a valuable opportunity for diplomacy. The Varians could retreat, regroup, and reassess their approach to Earth. Instead of having to rebuild their entire fleet from scratch after a devastating defeat, the Vurian Empire was left with a reminder of what had happened, but without the loss of military assets that could have taken years to replace. This decision not only conveyed humanity's superior technological and strategic capabilities, but it also placed the Varians in a position where negotiation and diplomacy became the only viable options. In essence, humanity had forced the Vurian Empire to the negotiating table without firing a single shot, setting the stage for a diplomatic resolution that could potentially avoid further conflict. In conclusion, the human choice to avoid destruction and focus on disabling the Vurian fleet reflected a deeper understanding of warfare as a tool for achieving peace, not just victory. Their ability to neutralize the enemy without causing lasting harm revealed a level of moral sophistication that was unexpected by the Varians and many others in the galaxy. It showed that true power did not lie in destruction, but in the ability to render an enemy impotent while maintaining the ethical high ground. This philosophy would resonate throughout the galaxy, influencing future generations and challenging traditional notions of warfare and victory. A critical aspect of humanity's response to the Vurian invasion was their ability to apply innovative thinking to an extremely dire situation. This was not merely a display of technological superiority, but a demonstration of how human ingenuity could turn even the most mundane or everyday tools into highly effective weapons of defense. In the eyes of the Vurian Empire and many others in the galaxy, humanity's methods were revolutionary because they involved seeing a problem from a completely new angle. The humans did not rely on traditional military technology or powerful warships to fight off their invaders. Instead, they repurposed a technology so ubiquitous and unremarkable that it had been taken for granted by all advanced civilizations: delivery drones. This approach was rooted in the human ability to think creatively and question the status quo. Whereas most species focused on building bigger, more powerful warships, humanity looked at something as simple as a package delivery system and saw the potential for transformation. Delivery drones, which had been used on Earth for years to move packages and goods from one place to another, were re-engineered to serve as weapons. The concept was simple, yet brilliant. By attaching autonomous navigation systems, advanced AI, and dampening technology, they turned these everyday devices into efficient military tools capable of neutralizing an enemy fleet. This innovative thinking highlighted a fundamental difference between the humans and their would-be invaders. The humans were not just building upon existing military technology, they were reimagining what warfare could be. They didn't just follow the conventional wisdom of warfare, which was based on large ships and massive firepower. They looked for more subtle, yet equally effective solutions. They weren't limited by the idea that war could only be fought with heavy artillery or capital ships. Instead, they saw an opportunity to use what was already at their disposal and adapt it to their needs. By leveraging drones designed for mundane tasks, they created a weapon that was not only highly effective, but also deceptively simple in design, catching their enemies off guard. The humans' innovative approach also spoke to their resourcefulness. Instead of launching a costly, large-scale offensive that would have drained their resources, humanity chose to use what they already had. The swarm of small drones required far less energy and resources than a fleet of warships, making it a far more sustainable option for Earth's defense. The beauty of this strategy was that it allowed humans to level the playing field against a vastly superior military force with a fraction of the cost. Their solution was scalable, meaning they could easily produce these drones in large quantities. And as Captain Chen later emphasized, they had millions more where these came from. This demonstrated a level of practical ingenuity that far outstripped the traditional notions of warfare, where one often sought to outspend or outgun the opponent. Another remarkable feature of the human approach was their ability to create a system that was both efficient and adaptable. The drones operated in perfect synchronization, each one carrying out its task with precision and efficiency. They were not just random attackers. They were highly specialized, targeting the critical components of the Vurian ships, such as their weapons, engines, and communication systems. The drones worked like a swarm, executing a coordinated attack that overwhelmed the Vurian fleet, but with no wasted effort or resources. This was a clear demonstration of the human understanding of the principle that efficiency and focus often lead to better results than sheer force. What made this innovation even more striking was the fact that the Varians had no idea that such a basic technology could be weaponized in this way. The Varians, along with other galactic species, were accustomed to dealing with military technologies that had evolved through centuries of warfare, and they could not fathom that a simple delivery system could be used to bring down their entire fleet. The sheer audacity of the human strategy, the idea that ordinary objects like drones could be retooled to carry out such a sophisticated operation, caught the Varians completely off guard. It wasn't just the effectiveness of the drones that surprised them. It was the fact that the humans had turned their everyday technology into a game-changing tool for defense. In the end, humanity's innovative approach to warfare was not just about military strategy. It was about a fundamental shift in how humans viewed the world. They had always been a species known for their adaptability and creativity. Whether it was developing new technologies, solving complex problems, or overcoming obstacles, humans had long prided themselves on their ability to think outside the box. This moment, when they faced an existential threat, was a perfect example of that mindset in action. Instead of relying on conventional methods or succumbing to the pressure of facing a superior enemy, the humans did what they did best. They reimagined what was possible and applied that new vision in a way that nobody could have predicted. This approach to innovation, one that didn't just build on existing systems, but fundamentally transformed them, was a key factor in why humanity was able to achieve what no one thought was possible. It wasn't just that they had superior technology, it was that they had the ability to see potential where others saw none, and to apply that vision in a practical and highly effective way. Their success was a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the endless possibilities that can emerge when you approach a problem with a fresh perspective. The human response to the Vurian invasion was not simply a show of military might, but a carefully crafted message intended to send a strong signal to the entire galaxy. The primary purpose of their actions was not to engage in a destructive battle or wipe out the invading fleet, but rather to deliver a powerful warning to the Vurian Empire and any other species that might be considering similar aggressive actions. The message, conveyed through the use of their repurposed delivery drones, was about more than just the technology itself. It was a statement about how humanity viewed warfare, power, and their place in the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chen's message, broadcast across all frequencies, underscored humanity's strategic intent. She explained that the drones, though equipped with advanced AI and system-specific dampening tools, had not been weaponized in the traditional sense. Instead of causing destruction through explosions or direct attacks, the drones were designed to disable the Vurian fleet, rendering their ships useless. This lack of lethal force conveyed that humanity's primary objective was not to kill or destroy, but to neutralize an aggressor without unnecessary loss of life. By making this clear, humanity sent a message that they had evolved beyond the need for traditional forms of military victory. This approach was both a warning and a demonstration of their values. What was most striking about the human strategy was how it flipped the concept of warfare on its head. For millennia, galactic powers had defined victory in terms of attrition, destroying enemy fleets, killing soldiers, and imposing their will through overwhelming force. However, humanity's response showed that they had a fundamentally different understanding of conflict. They didn't see power in the size of fleets or the destruction of enemies. Instead, they saw power in efficiency, intelligence, and the precise application of force. In other words, victory wasn't about how many ships you could destroy, but how effectively you could neutralize a threat without escalating violence. This shift in mindset was intended to show the Vurians, and by extension, the rest of the galaxy, that humanity was not to be underestimated. The strategic nature of the message became clearer as Captain Chen continued, emphasizing the human capacity for peace and negotiation. She explained that the Vurian fleet had not been destroyed, but merely disabled, and that the crews aboard the ships were unharmed. This was a deliberate choice to demonstrate that humanity valued life and peace over war. Furthermore, the ships could be reactivated remotely once the Vurians withdrew from Earth space and signed the proposed non-aggression pact. This highlighted humanity's willingness to avoid conflict if their boundaries were respected, underscoring that they were not warmongers but a species seeking stability and cooperation. The warning was not simply a plea for peace, it was a clear message of deterrence. Captain Chen subtly revealed humanity's capacity for even greater destruction by reminding the Vurian Council that Earth possessed a fleet of over 50 million delivery drones, of which less than 1% had been used in this operation. The fleet of drones that had already neutralized 3,000 of the galaxy's most powerful warships was just a small sample of humanity's true potential. This part of the message was intended to make the Vurians, and the galaxy at large, understand that humanity had the ability to strike again if necessary, but that they preferred not to escalate to that level unless absolutely required. The Vurians, having witnessed the humans' ability to disable a fleet without firing a single shot, understood that this was not a threat of brute force but a promise of measured, targeted action. Humanity had demonstrated that they could accomplish their goals with minimal resources and maximum efficiency, leaving the Vurians with no room to argue that Earth was not a formidable adversary. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of humanity's strategic message was its underlying philosophy: bigger isn't always better. The Vurians and many other galactic species believed that the key to success in war was through overwhelming numbers, immense firepower, and large-scale military operations. Humanity, however, had proven that smaller, more efficient tactics could yield results just as impactful, if not more so. By leveraging their most ordinary technology, something as unassuming as delivery drones, the humans had demonstrated a new kind of warfare, one rooted in intelligence and efficiency, not size or destruction. They had shown that it was not the size of the fleet that mattered, but the precision and thought behind the strategy. In sum, humanity's response to the Vurian invasion was a message about more than just military might. It was a philosophical statement about the future of warfare, peace, and the power of ingenuity. By repurposing everyday technology into a force capable of neutralizing a massive invasion fleet, humanity had redefined what it meant to be strong. Their message was clear. While they could destroy if necessary, they preferred to rely on smarter, more effective solutions. The Varians, as well as the rest of the galaxy, had been put on notice. Humanity was not to be underestimated, and they would not shy away from using their intellect and innovation to defend their home and their way of life. The outcome of humanity's demonstration, neutralizing a fleet of 3,000 of the galaxy's most advanced warships with little more than repurposed delivery drones, had profound implications for the entire concept of warfare within the galaxy. The Vurian Empire, having prided itself on its superior military technology and large-scale fleets, was faced with a stunning realization. The humans, who had once been considered primitive in comparison to other galactic civilizations, had devised a strategy so simple, yet so effective, that it challenged the very foundations of intergalactic warfare. This moment revealed a deep truth about the potential of human innovation, one that would reverberate across the galaxy for centuries to come. For millennia, the common belief among galactic civilizations was that war was about overwhelming force and sheer numbers. Large fleets, bristling with weapons and shields, were seen as the epitome of military power. In this traditional view, the greater the armada, the more likely a species was to win a conflict. Yet humanity had just demonstrated that this idea was outdated. They had turned the tables, proving that the true measure of power lay not in the size of one's forces, but in their intelligence and efficiency. The use of delivery drones, small, seemingly insignificant objects, had completely dismantled the notion that larger, more technologically advanced fleets were the only path to victory. What made humanity's approach even more revolutionary was their ability to reframe the concept of warfare itself. In the galactic community, wars had been defined by direct confrontations, the destruction of enemy vessels, and the loss of life. However, the human strategy completely bypassed these norms. They neutralized their enemies without shedding a single drop of blood. The drones disabled the Vurian fleet with precision, targeting systems like engines, weapons, and shields, but without causing any deaths or explosions. This shift represented a new kind of warfare, one based on incapacitation rather than annihilation, which not only preserved life, but also allowed for the possibility of negotiation and peaceful resolution. The implications of this shift were immense. Military leaders across the galaxy began to question whether their traditional strategies were still viable. If humanity could disable a fleet with drones that cost less to build than the fuel required to run a capital ship for a month, what did that mean for the future of intergalactic military strategies? This realization forced many species to reevaluate their own military priorities, as they began to understand that power was no longer solely derived from massive warships or destructive weapons, but from the innovative and strategic application of technology. Furthermore, the demonstration highlighted humanity's ability to think beyond the limitations of traditional combat. While other species focused on refining and enhancing their weapons and fleets, humanity was exploring alternatives, solutions that were not only efficient but also sustainable. The notion of doing more with less became central to humanity's identity, making it clear that they could achieve significant outcomes without exhausting their resources. This ability to innovate using ordinary technology was seen as a game changer, suggesting that warfare could evolve into a more cerebral and calculated endeavor rather than a brute force contest. On a deeper level, the innovation demonstrated by humanity suggested a more profound shift in the way warfare could be understood. The idea of using everyday technology to incapacitate a highly advanced military fleet spoke to a fundamental truth. Sometimes, the most effective solutions are those that subvert conventional thinking. Humanity's strategy didn't just challenge the status quo. It broke the mold entirely, asking the galaxy to rethink the very nature of power and conflict. By choosing to weaponize something as mundane as delivery drones, humanity turned an ordinary, civilian achievement into the most formidable defense mechanism known to the galaxy. This philosophical and technological shift was particularly unsettling to other species. Many had relied on their technological superiority to maintain power and control over lesser civilizations. However, humanity's success showed that even the smallest, most seemingly insignificant species could, through ingenuity and innovation, rise to challenge larger, more established empires. It undermined the assumption that a species' place in the galactic hierarchy was determined solely by its technological prowess or military might. Humanity's victory was not just a military success. It was a statement about the potential for every species to redefine its role in the galaxy, regardless of its perceived power. The fear it instilled in the galactic community was not just about humanity's technological capabilities, but also about their mindset. By combining efficiency, innovation, and a new approach to conflict, humanity had shown that they could solve complex problems with minimal resources, a skill that could give them an insurmountable advantage in future conflicts. This made humanity a new type of threat, not one that could be defeated through sheer force, but one that required a complete rethink of how conflicts were fought and won. In essence, humanity's innovation was not simply a new tactic in warfare. It was the beginning of a paradigm shift that would force the entire galaxy to rethink its strategies, its technologies, and its assumptions about power. The humans had demonstrated that the future of warfare was not about bigger fleets or more powerful weapons, but about smarter, more efficient use of the tools at hand. And in that new future, humanity had positioned itself as a formidable force to be reckoned with. Humanity's demonstration in the Galactic Council chamber was more than a tactical victory. It was a philosophical declaration that would resonate throughout the galaxy. By leveraging seemingly mundane technology, such as delivery drones, to dismantle an entire invasion fleet, humanity had not only proven their technological prowess, but also revealed a deep philosophical shift in how warfare and power were understood. This shift was not just about the application of force, but about redefining the very nature of conflict, intelligence, and strategy. For centuries, the galaxy had adhered to a certain mindset when it came to power. Larger fleets, superior firepower, and overwhelming numbers had been seen as the defining markers of a species' military might. This approach mirrored an industrial age mentality, where strength was measured by how much could be built, produced, and destroyed. However, humanity's victory made it clear that this mindset was limited. It wasn't about outnumbering or overpowering an enemy with brute force. It was about using intelligence and innovation to outthink and outmaneuver them. This intellectual shift in the understanding of warfare signaled that future conflicts might not be decided by who could launch the most missiles or build the biggest battleships, but by who could devise the most effective and efficient strategies. The very essence of the message broadcast by Captain Sarah Chun was that humans didn't just operate within the bounds of conventional warfare. They questioned the entire premise of traditional combat. The human approach to war was centered on the idea of efficiency, optimization, and sustainability. Rather than deploying vast armies or weapons of mass destruction, humanity sought to achieve their goals with minimal resources, all while preserving life. The use of delivery drones to disable an entire fleet without casualties or the destruction of ships epitomized this philosophy. In a galaxy accustomed to destruction, humanity's commitment to finding solutions that didn't involve bloodshed, yet still achieve their objectives, was revolutionary. This shift in philosophy was not just a tactical innovation, but also a moral one. Throughout the galaxy, civilizations had grown accustomed to the idea that war required sacrifice, both in terms of resources and lives. Death in battle was often seen as an inevitable and necessary consequence of conflict. However, humanity's strategy challenged this assumption. They had proven that it was possible to win without taking life or leaving devastation in their wake. This would have profound implications for future intergalactic diplomacy and the way wars were fought. It suggested that conflict resolution could move away from the traditional paradigm of total war, where the destruction of the enemy was the ultimate goal, and towards a new form of engagement, one based on intelligence, precision, and minimal harm. Moreover, humanity's philosophical approach extended beyond the battlefield. The concept of using everyday technology in innovative ways demonstrated the profound adaptability and creativity inherent in the human species. While other galactic civilizations focused on perfecting weapons and war machines, humanity had turned what was once a simple tool for convenience into an instrument of warfare. This ability to take mundane technology, repurpose it, and turn it into something extraordinarily effective reflected a larger human trait: their relentless drive to push boundaries and ask why rather than simply accepting the status quo. Humanity didn't just think outside the box, they questioned why the box existed in the first place. This philosophical approach raised an uncomfortable question for the galactic community. What if humanity could apply this kind of thinking to other areas of conflict, such as politics, trade, or even galactic governance? If they could defeat an invasion fleet using delivery drones, what else could they achieve using ordinary technologies in extraordinary ways? The possibilities seemed endless. The fear and admiration that came with this realization were palpable. Humanity's success suggested that they were not just a species to be feared militarily, but one whose potential for innovation and disruption could reshape the very fabric of galactic society. As the Galactic Council members sat in stunned silence, the broader implications of humanity's philosophy began to sink in. The humans had demonstrated not just a new form of warfare, but a new way of thinking, a paradigm shift that transcended military strategy and touched on the fundamental principles of how societies could approach problems, both large and small. They had shown that intelligence, efficiency, and innovation could be more powerful than raw force, and in doing so, had positioned themselves as not only a formidable military force, but also as thought leaders whose approach to conflict could shape the future of galactic diplomacy and warfare. The idea that smaller, seemingly insignificant species could disrupt the balance of power by challenging traditional notions of strength was unsettling for many of the council members. The very structure of galactic politics, which had been built on the assumption that power was synonymous with size, weaponry, and force, was now under scrutiny. Humanity's success had exposed the cracks in this structure and revealed that the galaxy's military elite were not invulnerable. In the end, what made humanity truly dangerous wasn't their size or strength. It was their ability to rethink, innovate, and challenge assumptions in ways that others could not yet imagine. Ultimately, the galactic shift that humanity initiated was not just about changing the rules of war. It was about challenging the very way civilizations thought about power, conflict, and their place in the universe. The humans had shown that the future was not about who could build the biggest fleet or destroy the most ships. It was about who could outthink and outmaneuver their opponents. And in doing so, humanity had secured their place in the galaxy as not just survivors, but as pioneers of a new era in both warfare and philosophy.